Welcome to Momentum's virtual training series, where we invite expert facilitators to share their knowledge on topics that advance women in leadership.
Hello, everyone. Happy 4th of July week or week after, I think, here at Momentum Leaders. Thank you for hopping on today. And as everybody is signing on, I want to ask all of you to make sure you put your name in the chat and the organization that you are with. We have Lisa, Beck, Schuck in the house with us today. We're so excited. And we can't wait to get started here in just a couple of minutes, actually. I think we or as soon as we get everyone signed in.
Elizabeth!
I hope
Yay!
I hope everyone has had a great 4th of July weekend.
Hello, Ed and Julie, Michaela. I always love seeing where people
Yeah.
are from. Hello, Harriet.
Harriet. Harriet, hey there. And Michaela and Elizabeth.
Teresa,
Teresa.
Lanika, and I think I just saw
Yes.
Jen Tucker.
Mm-hmm. And Julie Rogers.
It's so
Hello,
fun.
Ed. Hey, Ed Adams. We're so glad to have a guy in the house.
Gwen. Oh, this is so fun.
Hey, Gwen. So, Gwen, who are you with? Hey, Allison.
It's so fun. So fun. Hey,
Hey,
Libba.
Libby Yates.
Angie. Y'all, it's the week after the 4th. I'm honored that you guys would spend your lunch hour with me. Thank you. It'll be fun. I see you, Jen Tucker.
Heather
I can
Beatty
only see a couple of screens at a time, but I see
and
you.
Christy.
Hello, Heather, Christy. Yes, this is so fun.
Oh, this is so cool. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to take a second and put your name in there. I feel like, you know how when we were growing up, we had they would, on our little children's television show, they would do they'd hold up the little mirror and they would call out the kids' names. And I always waited for them to call my name, but Darlin was never called.
Oh my gosh. Hello, you corporate lunch ladies at Avadian Credit Union.
Love it. So while everybody is getting signed on, I just want to do thank Denise Harris in Huntsville. She has been such an amazing mentor, and we have chosen her as Mentor of the Month. Thank you for everything that you're doing, Denise, in Huntsville, to spread the word about momentum. So I want to thank you so much and glad to have you on board here with us at Momentum. If you are looking for some information to help us get better, take this right now, scan this, give us feedback, tell us what you think about today so that Lisa can understand how to serve you better, and we can too. So if you'll go ahead and have this ready and scan this on your phone, as soon as we're finished, you can just do the feedback survey. It's only a few questions, but it really does help us stay very relevant. We want to thank our sponsors for making this very possible today so that we can reach women everywhere and men too. And we want to make sure that our sponsors know how much we really appreciate them. If you're looking for a mentor or want to be a mentor, here is that QR code. We love getting to help connect everybody together. And I am going to stop my screen share and let Lisa get started here. Thank you, Lisa, for doing our mid-year twist plot. Um, Thank you for this because you started us off in January helping us do, hey, let's get set up, let's get your year planned. And thank you for being so cognizant of realizing that sometimes things don't go as planned, even though we do plan things very well and we're very intelligent about it. But life does take a turn, and you also get to see things. You do the very best you can in the moment, but that doesn't mean you can't do some pivoting and twisting. So thank you. And thank you for being here with us in this 4th of July week. It was kind of odd. It was with it being on Saturday. I don't know if that was last week or this week. So thank you.
Well, I am delighted to be here, and I am going to see if I can get my screen going. All right, are we ready? Let's do
Yes.
this. So I am so glad that you are sharing your lunch hour with me today, because I think what we're about to do together in the next hour is something a lot of us have probably needed since about February, because we kind of make these plans and then we lose momentum or we lose where we are. You had a plan, you had words, you had intention, and then life happened. Oh, let's see. Next slide is not up. There we're going. John Lennon said it perfectly. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. I love this quote because it doesn't say life ruined your plans. It says life happened. And there's a difference. And that difference is what today is all about. So before we go any further, I want to know sort of where you are. I want you to answer honestly, and there's no wrong answer here. In fact, every single option is the right answer for someone in this room. What best describes your first half of 2026? I'm pretty much on track. I've had to course correct a time or two. Life had completely other plans than what I thought was going to happen. I'm still figuring out what happened. All of us, right? These things happen. So I want to see if I can see the chat. Drop a number
There's a
into
lot
the
of
chat.
twos. There is a lot going on in the chat. A lot of twos, a couple of fours, but
I
mainly
had to
twos.
course correct 4. I'm still figuring out what happened. Victoria, I am right there with you on that one. I think we all pretty much sort of get to the same place where this is not a sign
Sorry.
of failure, by the way. This is the sign of someone paying attention, right? Course correction is not quitting, it is wisdom in action. And if you said life had other plans or still figuring it out, you're in the right place, because what happened to you in the first half of this year is not the end of your story, it's just a plot twist. And plot twist, as we're going to talk about today, don't end stories. In fact, sometimes they really set up things better. So here's what I want you to hear right now before we do anything else. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are a human being who made a plan with the information you had in January, and then life handed you some information you didn't have yet. That's not a character flaw. It's just the deal we all signed up for when we decided to actually live our lives, set intentions, and live into our intentions instead of just watching them go by. So here's what we're going to do today. We're not here to redo January. We're not here to guilt ourselves into recommitting to things that no longer fit. And as women, we do that. And we are absolutely not here to measure ourselves against a version of our year that was written with incomplete information. We are here to do something much more powerful than that. We are here to rewrite. A plot twist isn't the end of the story. It's the moment the story gets interesting, right? And in the next 60 minutes, we're going to figure out what your next chapter looks like. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to reconnect to who you are still becoming. And for those of you who were with me in January, one of the things I ask everyone to think about is not so much about your goals of what you wanted to achieve in 2026, but on who you wanted to become as an individual. Because by setting intentions of who we want to become, our goals happen naturally. If I want to be a healthy individual, then in order to be healthy, I make choices based on that intention of who I want to be. So we're going to look at who we are becoming. We're going to reframe whatever happened in the first half as data, not a verdict. And we're going to reset dominoes, and we'll talk about the domino effect for the second half. And we're going to leave here with a commitment that belongs to who you are right now, not who you thought you'd be by now. So let's get into it. We're going to reconnect to who we are all still becoming. So let's go back to where we started. Identity is not found, it is constructed. So I want you to sit with that for just a second. We live in a culture that tells us to find ourselves, find your purpose, find your passion, find your path, as if the real you is buried somewhere and you just haven't dug deep enough yet to find it. But that's really not how it works. Identity isn't something you uncover, it's something that you build deliberately, intentionally, one decision, one action, one micro brave, courageous step at a time. And here's the thing about construction, sometimes you build something and then life knocks part of it down. A storm rolls through, the ground shifts, something you didn't account for changes the plan. It doesn't mean you failed at building. You're a builder. Builders don't quit when something fails. They look at what's still standing, figure out what needs to be different, and they keep going. I don't know how many of you who've ever done a construction project, a home renovation, or built something, but there are constantly opportunities / issues that have to be dealt with during the construction project. You deal with it and you move on based on a new piece of information that you have. I do also want us to remember that when we look at our identity, a lot of times we revert, women in particular, default to roles over identity. And I really want us to stay focused today on who we want to become in our identity and not necessarily a role. So, yes, I am a wife, I am a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a friend, I'm a this, I'm a that. But who I want to become determines the choices I make in my life. If I want to be calm, or I want to think strategically through problems before responding, that's different than just saying, hey, I'm a mom, I problem solve every day. So I want us to hold on to the identity of who we want to become. So, but before we look at who you're still becoming, I want to introduce you to something that may have been quietly working against you for the last 6 months. And once I name it, I think you're going to recognize it immediately. It's called negativity bias. Here's what it means. Our brains, all of our brains, this isn't just you, are hardwired to register and hold on to negative experiences more strongly than positive ones. It's actually an evolutionary survival mechanism. Our ancestors needed to remember the dangers more vividly than pleasures in order to stay alive. The problem is that in 2026, that same wiring means we walk around carrying our setbacks, our missed goals, our unfinished intentions much more heavily than we carry our wins. Think about the first half of this year. When you reflect on it, what comes to mind first? Is it the things you did accomplish or the things that you didn't? For most of us, it's the didn't. Not because the wins weren't real, not because progress wasn't there, but because our brains are literally wired to put more weight on the losses. This is why mid-year feels heavier than it should. This is why you can do 17 things well and still go to bed thinking about the one thing you didn't do. You're not being too hard on yourself. Well, actually, you are being too hard on yourself, but it's not entirely your fault. Your brain is doing what brains do. Here's the good news. Once you know the bias exists, you can work around it. And that's exactly what we talked about in January. We had a momentum log, and that's what it was designed to do. If you used it this year, this is the moment we're going to talk about it a little bit. And if you weren't there in January, we're going to explain what it is. I promise you, there is more evidence of courage and progress in those pages than you've been giving yourself credit for. And if you didn't use it, that's okay. We're going to come back to it before we close today because it's a way to track forward progress. And guys, we all need to track our forward progress. I want to show you something. This quote stops me every time I read it because it's honest in a way that most inspiration isn't. And I am all about an inspirational, motivational quote. Becoming, living into who you want to become does cost something. It requires you to release versions of yourself that no longer fit you. It sometimes means outgrowing habits, spaces, even relationships that were comfortable but weren't moving you forward. Personally, I have a friend that is very negative. One of my intentions is to be positive and live into what's the best that can happen. So I've had to go, you know what? I tend to get really negative when I hang out with this person. Maybe I should not hang out with them quite so much. And when I do, I really try and watch what I say and do and counter negativity with positivity. It's a very simple, basic example, but it's something that I've had to do to live into the intention of living into what's the best that can happen every day. Sometimes the things that feel like a plot twist in the first half are actually part of you becoming, of you living into your intentions. The very disruption that feels like it derailed you is probably doing the work or clearing space for who you are actually becoming. I don't say that to minimize anything hard that has happened to you. I say it because I've seen it to be true in my own life and in the lives of other people I've worked with. The detour often turns out to be the path. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you have your words from January, so in January we chose 3 identity words, words that described the person you wanted to be by the end of 2026. Words like calm, intentional, bold, grounded, courageous, connected. And then we wrote 1 or 2 sentences as if that identity was already true. I want you to go back or think about those words now. If you don't remember them or didn't write them down, that's okay. I want you to think about them fresh and ask yourself a couple of questions. What words resonate with me right now? Maybe you chose the word bold in January and you have been boldly showing up and that word still lights you up. Great, hold on to it. But maybe you chose a word, connected, for instance, and you're thinking that's really not the word I want to live into. I'd rather choose the word deepen relationships or intentionality in relationships. Change it. You also may have been tested by a word that you chose. Maybe you chose calm and then life handed you the most uncalm 6 months of your recent memory. It doesn't mean calm isn't your identity or something you should live into. It might mean calm is exactly what you need to keep building toward. And is there a word that you didn't even know you needed? Sometimes a plot twist introduces us to a part of ourselves we didn't plan for. Resilient, adaptable, brave, in a way that you didn't know you were even capable of being. So I'm curious if there's a word that belongs on your list now that wasn't there in January, or a word that resonates with you that you're like, you know what, the first half of this year, I've really been living into this, and I really want to set an intention to become more of fill in the blank. a resilient individual, a brave individual, a bold individual, whatever that word might be. But I'd like for you to take a few seconds and sit with what are 3 words that either were the words in January, or if you have not done this exercise, what words resonate with you on who you want to live into becoming for the rest of the year, even with the plot twist that may have occurred. And I just ask you to drop them into the chat, right? There is a handout that Lindsay dropped in the chat. If you guys want to pull that up, it'll give you some fill in the blanks, make it helpful. But you know, it is all, I'm just now seeing some of this. This is hilarious. Darla says her word was perceived. Nice. The word is still the same. Alexis, brave, peaceful, more self-confident. Yes, intentionality in that. I love that. Other individuals that have words that you want to set intentions around on who you are becoming. One of my words this year was focused. And I wanted to focus on certain things because you set goals based on who you want to become. Amanda, unstoppable. Like I can be more and do more by own definition. Ooh, I love that. That's a great word.
It is.
Other words, intentional. Gwen, that's such a good word. So many things. Okay. So while you're dropping your words in the chat, I listened to, there's a girl, her name's Macy. She's the Sales Girls, right? She has a podcast. But one of the statements that she makes is she lives into that word. And when she has a question about something, she asks it in the way that says, if I'm being intentional, what would that look like in this situation? If I'm being unstoppable, what decision would I make in this situation? And I know that seems like a very simple statement to make, but it's totally changed how I approach some decisions. Because if I'm living into becoming someone, then I need to ask myself, what if I'm living into being brave, focused, and bold like Harriet, then based on that intentionality, what should my decision look like? What should I do? Like, I just love that statement. Fearless. Yes, I love that. All right. Anybody else before we move on? This is a
I
great
love seeing what
conversation.
they're doing. Thank you so much, Lisa, for kicking our brain thoughts in here to be more intentional with everything and to be mindful of the things that because we all understand, like you said, life happens and you get really busy, and sometimes that gets pushed to the back burner. So thanks for reminding us of that question to ask ourselves.
Rooted, Adrian, that's a great word.
Yes.
Golly. So we're going to use these words on who we're still trying to become in 2026. And we are going to take into account what has life given us, right? Let's see. My slides are not moving forward. There we go. All right. So we've reconnected. We're thinking about who we're becoming in terms of our words. We're looking at these identity words. Now I want to talk about the thing that may have made all of this feel harder than it needed to be, the plot twist itself. Whatever happened in your first half of this year, big or small, expected or completely out of nowhere, I want to spend some time with it. Not to dwell in it, not to relive it, but to look at it differently than you may have been looking at it. Because here's what I know about plot twist. In a story, a plot twist isn't the moment the story falls apart. It's the moment the story gets interesting. It's the moment the reader leans in. It's the moment everything that came before suddenly makes sense in a new way. What if we looked at the first half of 2026 the same way? So I want to introduce you to the first of two biases that may have been quietly running the show for you. And once you hear these, I think they're going to explain a lot. The first one is called the sunk cost fallacy. I'm so guilty of this. Here's what it means. The sunk cost fallacy is our tendency to continue down a path, to keep investing time, energy, money, emotion, simply because of what we've already put into it, even when the evidence is telling us the path no longer makes sense. You see it everywhere. Staying in a job too long because of the years you've already given it. I'm guilty of this, no more. Finishing a book you're not enjoying because you're already halfway through. You don't have to finish it. That was a really big giving myself permission moment. Seems very simple. Holding on to a goal that no longer fits because you announced it in January and you don't want to feel like you quit. And here's the painful part about this. The sunk cost, the work you've already put into it, isn't recoverable. The time, the energy, the effort you already spent, it's spent. It doesn't come back. Whether you stay or whether you go, whether you keep reading a book or stop reading a book. The only question that actually matters is, does continuing this path make sense for where I am right now? Not from where I was in January, from where I am right now. This is why pivoting at mid-year almost feels like a betrayal. It feels like you're abandoning something. It feels like you're admitting failure. But what if it isn't? What if pivoting is actually the most honest thing you can do? What if it's the evidence that you've learned something in the last 6 months that you did not know before, and you're wise enough to act on it? Changing direction isn't quitting, it's updating. And updating is what smart, courageous, self-aware individuals do. The second bias I want to name is called the planning fallacy. And this one was identified by psychologists, I'm going to butcher their names, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And it basically says this: we are consistently, predictably, almost universally bad at estimating how long things will take and how much we can realistically accomplish in a set period of time. We plan at the mountaintop level. We imagine the best case scenario with minimal obstacles, maximum energy, and everything going according to plan. And then life happens. And we look at where we are 6 months later and we feel behind. But here's the truth: you were never behind. Your plan was made with the optimism of January, the energy and enthusiasm of a new year, with incomplete information before the obstacle arrived, before life handed you the things it handed you. The planning fallacy isn't a character flaw. It's not a sign that you're a dreamer who can't execute. It is a cognitive universal thought that affects every human being on the planet, including the most successful people you can think of. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're just human. I think one of the quotes that go along with this planning fallacy is the quote that we overestimate what we can get done in a year, and we underestimate what we can get done in 5 years. I tell myself that all the time. We overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And I think it's important for us to always remember that. C.S. Lewis said something that I think is the perfect response to both the sunken cost fallacy and the planning, which is, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. That's it. That's the whole thing. You can't go back and unlive the first half of 2026. You cannot undo the things that didn't happen or did happen, or unexperienced things. The beginning is written. The ending, what happens next, is yours to write. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Some of you were with me in January when we talked about the domino effect, the idea that one small negative event can trigger a cascade if we let it. One awkward conversation becomes, okay, I'm going to give you my today example. I was working on something for a client and I sent it and they responded and it was fine. They didn't get the attachment. They were very curt in their response. I immediately went down the, oh my God, I've completely ruined this relationship. I'm terrible at this. Why am I like, what? No. He responded about 30 minutes later and he was like, oh, hey, sorry, I was in the middle of something. But now that I look at this, we're just going to change these two things. Okay. But I had already cascaded down this negative path, and we all do this. Cascade thinking happens with our goals and our plans. One missed milestone, one, oh my gosh, I said I was going to go to the gym 4 days a week and I've only been 2 days a week, becomes I'm already behind, becomes what's the point of even trying? That's a negative domino chain. And here's what I want you to remember. You don't have to follow it. The moment you recognize that a negative cascade is happening, you have a choice. You can pick up a new domino. You can ask yourself, say to yourself, what's the best that can happen? If you do not have that written on a sticky note on your computer, I want you to stop and do that right now. Because we all tend to look at negative. Remember, negativity is what we do. But reframing it to, I don't know, what's the best that can happen? Changes your perspective and gives you an energy that is positive. And that's what I want us to do. A plot twist doesn't have to trigger a negative cascade. It can be an activation energy for something better if you choose it to use it that way. So here's the tool I want to give you for doing that. I'm calling it the 3-question plot twist reset. It's in the worksheet if you happen to download it. I want you to write your answers. 3 questions. Here we go. What happened and what story am I telling about it? There are always 2 things. There's the event itself and the narrative we build around the event. The event is a fact. The narrative is a choice that we make in our minds. What actually happened in the first half of your year? And what story have you been carrying about it? Are those 2 things the same, or has the narrative grown bigger than the event? Question 2, what did this detour, and that's all it is, teach me about what I actually want? And this is the question that turns a plot twist into data, because every detour, every disruption, everything that didn't go to plan reveals something. Maybe it revealed that the goal you set wasn't actually yours. It was someone else's expectation that you'd adopted. Maybe it revealed you don't want to do this. Maybe it showed you a strength you didn't have or a boundary you needed to set. What did your first half of the year teach you about what you actually want for your life? And question 3, what would the woman I'm becoming do next? Not those of us who are exhausted or discouraged, not someone who's measuring herself against January's plan. The individual you named in the chat 5 minutes ago, the bold one, the grounded one, the intentional one, what would she do next? And I want us, this is dangerous. I'm going to stop sharing. Hopefully I can recapture. But I want us to take a minute and really want to have you guys answer some of these questions and drop it in the chat. So if you can give me an example of what are you pivoting from? What choice do you want to do differently? What did this detour teach you about who you are? Personally, I can share that I started this year with the intention of living into really the purpose of what I do, which is to encourage and empower individuals to live their best life. And that is not just in business, but just in what I do on a day-to-day basis. Like that's my intention. And I have been handed several opportunities that really don't play into that intention and kind of make me go, ooh, I really don't. Do I do that? Do I not do that? But I've made decisions based on the intentions I set out on who I wanted to become. And that's changed things. So I'm curious if anybody's open to sharing. Is there a pivot that you've made? Drop it in the chat, or a decision that you made based on who you want to become, or a goal that you set at the beginning of the year and realized, no, I got a new piece of information. I don't want to do that. Anybody? And I don't know if I can call on anybody. Darla, can I call on people? Like, I can't.
Absolutely, you can. And I'm about to put mine in here.
Well,
Um, because mine was perceived. So I have been working on paying attention because I remember what you were talking about, about what's the best thing that can happen, and stopped being so, it was a habit of being negative to myself, of like you said, going down those paths. And so now I have been making sure that I stop in the middle of those sentences and rewrite the narrative and just am more. I'm as kind to myself, I'm learning how to be as I am kind to everyone else, if that makes sense.
no, I love that. Jennifer, I love this. You started with the intention of setting better boundaries with others. That's so important. Growing
Mm,
as a professional so that I can reach higher goals, which is going to make you make, if you think about it, this makes you make different decisions when you're faced with opportunities or issue in your life because you go, okay, wait, am I living into setting better boundaries in this situation? Am I living into growing as a professional? I love it. Starting and okay, well, now I got to know what is the children's book series that you're creating? That's super exciting. Drop that in the chat so I can see that.
I'll come
Um,
up to you. Um, so I'm a mom of 4 special needs kids, and we have the wide range of special needs from medically complex down to autism. And I want to write children's book about some of our experiences to highlight that although that they are different, they are no different than the other kids at school. My first book is going to be about my daughter who had to wear a helmet to keep her safe when she had falls. Because if she fell, she has multiple devices in her brain keeping her alive. She would end up having seizures and then would go unconscious. And so the kids at school thought she rode a motorcycle to school, or she rode a horse. Like there was all kinds of stories. And so I've been writing them down through the years, and I want to write about it, and I want kids to learn that it's okay to be different.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. Yes, go do that. That is amazing. That and it will be a wonderful series. I can only imagine all the different guesses or things that children thought about wearing a helmet to school. Um, Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. I hope, does anybody else want to share? Or I am headed back in. Let's see. Did I do it? Yes, I did. Of course I can't. Here we go.
Amanda had just shared something about
Wait,
her.
Amanda, where are you? Incorporate more AI tech learning in my career aspirations and to encourage myself to reskill, upskill so I can be. Yes,
That's awesome.
Amanda, you connect with me on LinkedIn and I'm going to send you some resources for this, okay? Like, I am all about learning and leveraging that learning. And I'm happy to share information about that with you. Okay. That's amazing. And we should all be doing that. Yes, ma'am. Do it. All right. We're going to reset our dominoes now. We're going to choose our first stone on the trail. Wait, I got more. I will connect. Yes, absolutely. All right. So we have looked at our intentions. We have learned why we perhaps have approached our plot twist or pivots in a way that might not be positive, but we've learned ways to transition by understanding the fallacies and biases that naturally occur in our life. We have rethought and renewed, or for the first time, thought about words that are who we want to become, knowing that choosing words of intention of who we want to become is what we then use to set goals for ourselves moving forward. Because if I'm living into an intention of being healthy, what does that mean? It means physically, it means spiritually, it means emotionally. And so it means what I eat, what I read, how I move my body. Those are all decisions that I have to make to live into the intention of becoming healthy. So when you choose words about who you want to become, it frames how you live your life. And I think that was the biggest shift for me from setting goals for the year. Yes, I still have goals, but they're based around my intentions of who I want to become, not just random, I want to read 10 books, right? It is because I want to be more, I want to understand a certain problem, or I want to read the classics to help me learn problem solving or critical thinking skills, right? So there are intentions that are how I set goals. Okay. We've reconnected to our words of what we're becoming. We've named biases that perhaps we're making the first half feel heavier, or we're making some of these plot twists feel heavier than they need to be. We've reframed our plot twist from a verdict, because it's not, into a data point. And you've asked the most important question of, what would the women I'm becoming do next? And now we build. Because here's the thing about plot twist. The reframe is powerful, but it isn't enough on its own. Insight without action is just interesting. And we're not here to just be interesting. We're here to move. So this section is about choosing your first domino for the second half of 2026. Remember, most people set goals at the mountaintop level, but the people who actually change their lives choose the first stone on the trail. So I want you to think about what do you want to do as it pertains to who you want to become by the end of the year. And what is the first stone on the trail, the one you're standing on right now? Not necessarily the trail that you planned in January, not the trail someone else thinks you should be on, the trail that belongs to you, the one who's bold, intentional, focused, grounded, brave, peaceful, still becoming. What is your first stone? And that's what we have to figure out. We're going to use the same framework from January, the courageous dominoes, but we're going to apply it to the second half. And if you didn't do this in January, it doesn't matter, right? We're looking forward, not backwards. You do have 6 months of lived experience in forming your answers, but I want you to think about what is one action small enough to do daily or weekly that would move you towards who you are becoming. Just one, not a list, not a plan, one action. If your word is grounded, maybe it's 5 minutes of stillness before you look at your phone in the morning. If your word is bold, Maybe it's sending one message a week to someone you've been meaning to reach out to. If your word is connected, maybe it's one intentional conversation a week with someone who really matters to you. Small, specific, identity connected. Think about the smallest version of an action, because here's the science behind this. It's activation energy. The smallest first step dramatically increases the likelihood that you'll actually start. And once you start, the commitment bias kicks in, meaning we have a natural tendency to stay consistent with it. So if the action was 5 minutes of stillness, you're like, 5 minutes is a lot. The smallest version of that is 1 minute. So start with 1 minute, right? If the action was one intentional conversation a week, the smallest version is sending one text today. Make it so small that you can't talk yourself out of it. And that's the version that actually gets done. BJ Fogg, I believe that's his name, wrote a book on habits, did a study. And one of the things that he found was, for instance, if you want to start flossing your teeth more, something I should probably do more of, he didn't ask people to you start flossing your teeth every day. No, it was, hey, floss one tooth. That's it, one tooth. Everybody can floss one tooth. And what he found was they would floss more than one tooth. I told the story in January of a guy who, his story was he lost an incredible amount of weight, but how he started, he was so intimidated by going to the gym to work out that the first thing he did was just drive to the gym. He didn't even get out of the car. Like, the smallest step for him was making himself drive to the gym every day and sit in the parking lot. And then the next step was making himself drive to the gym every day, sit in the parking lot, and then he would walk inside the gym, turn around, and walk out. And by building on those small intentional steps, he eventually got to where he was actually working out, walking on the treadmill, lifting weights. It's amazing to me how momentum through activation energy continues to carry us. But if we start at this huge mountaintop level, it seems absolutely, how are we going to make this happen? But if you start at a really little tiny first step, that we can make happen. So, third question, what is the courageous version of that action? If you had no fear, if you were fully in the driver's seat, what would the courageous version of your action or intention look like? So we have the smallest step, and then what would courageous action look like? And we're going to talk about the 10-second courage window because it closes the gap between the smallest version and the courageous version. Okay. Here's the piece that makes it stick, is the implementation intention. Okay? You know your obstacles. You've lived them. You know it's going to happen. And this makes everything more powerful. If blank happens, then I will blank. You are pre-deciding now how you're going to respond to the obstacles that are going to happen. For instance, if I wake up and feel like I don't have time for my 1 minute of stillness, then I will do it in my car before I start the engine. Right? Make a plan for when life happens. If you miss something, right? If you miss something, plan for what that looks like, right? Because it's going to happen. Okay. We fear fuel reframe. what is your fear protecting? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this only because I don't have a lot of time left. Fear almost always shows up around the things that matter most. Because if you weren't afraid, probably didn't matter that much. The presence of fear is often a signal that you are moving in the right direction. But I do want you to stop and think, what does this fear say about what I deeply care about? Because fear will reveal your priority and it points you directly at your growth opportunities. It's not a stop sign, it is an arrow. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear, right? We're all courageous women. We really are. And we've all decided we want to become certain things. That's the judgment. So, how do you do it in real time? You know me, I love to give you tools. Use the 10-second courage window. When something makes you nervous, when you're about to do the thing, make the move, take the step, you take action within 10 seconds because that is before the fear-based mental loop can fully form, before your brain can build a case for why now isn't the right time to do whatever it is you're trying to get done. 10 seconds. That's all you need. It builds what I call micro bravery. I love this phrase. Small acts of courage that stack on each other. I can be micro brave. May not be big time brave or courageous, but I can be micro brave in the moment and take the one single step that needs to take. All right, before we move into the final section, I really want you to think through, who do you want to become? What is your one action in terms of the smallest version and the courageous version for the future? And I want you to take into account whatever plot twist or pivot that's occurred in your life over the first half of the year that makes you feel like I am never going to reach this goal, or gosh darn, I'm so far behind, I need to just stop. Don't. You've learned so much in the past 6 months. We learn new things every day. Stop, pause, think, ponder, and make a plan. Live into micro bravery, the smallest action, the 10-second rule. It will help you in who you are becoming. It's just, you showed up today in the middle of your life with everything on your plate, everything pulling at your attention. You chose to be here. I am so very grateful. That is everything. Because here's what I know about anyone who is on this call. You didn't come here because everything is perfect and you just wanted to celebrate. You came here because you care about who you are and who you are becoming, about your growth, and about making the second half of this year mean something. That's courage. And it means you're already in forward momentum. I do want you to do one thing for me. One courageous thing I did today was, this is the momentum log that I spoke about earlier. I actually have started doing this. I didn't really do it that well at the beginning of the year, just saying, I knew I should. But about a month ago, I realized I really wasn't acknowledging the steps that I was taking living into my intentions. And so I started doing it. And it makes a huge difference. One courageous thing I did today was, what was it? And make yourself write it down, either in the morning about the day before or at night before you go to bed about that day. But it is a direct daily antidote to the negativity bias and the negative stories that we tell ourselves in our brains. You just are collecting evidence of forward movement. You're building a documented record, one courageous act at a time. And on the days when the pivots or plot twists feel bigger than the progress, and those days happen to all of us, you have that record to go back to, evidence in your own handwriting that you kept going. The momentum log isn't a journal. It's not a gratitude practice, although I highly recommend a gratitude practice. It's a courage archive. And by the end of 2026, it will be a very powerful document. For you, one courageous thing I did today was showing up for myself in a room full of people who are doing the same. There's your first entry. It's already written. Now, I'm going to bring everything together. I am blank, and my next courageous step is what? This is your plot twist statement, and I want you to do it. All right. I think we have run out of time, so we don't get to read our statements out loud. Before I let you go, I want you to know that there are resources that there will be sent out, books, etc. Gap in the Game are really good. And one last thing, I'm speaking at this event, Mindset and Momentum, in September with Rachel Autry and Macy, I forget her last name, from the Sales Girls. I attended this event last year, and it is not an exaggeration to say it changed how I view my life. So if you are really living into becoming and setting intentions, I invite you to attend Mindset and Momentum in September. And with that, I am done. Done. Go for it, Darla.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Lisa. And I want to take, can you go back to that QR code so that they can look at that event again?
Yeah.
So that they can take a look at that. Because that sounds absolutely wonderful, and we want to definitely support you, Lisa, and everything that you're doing. Thank you for being here with us again and helping us have a very positive and realistic look about what this year is going to look like for the next 6 months and how to keep going strong and not be afraid of the change. I appreciate that very much. I know we all do. Thank you for being here with us. And everyone who has already downloaded our QR code, Lisa, let me put this back up there. We'd love to have your feedback. And I want to put that up before you leave, if you would please do the, let me get right there. So please download that really quick before you hop off and give us your information about today and let us know everything that you have learned today and how you're doing with your intentions. I love that. And if you need the worksheet again, just email me and I will make sure that we get it over to you. Thank you for sending that to us, Lisa. Thank you again for everybody being here today. So grateful that everyone has been so faithful here with Momentum Leaders, and enjoy your day. Everybody stay safe. Lisa, thank you again. Look forward to having you again. Bye.
You.
Momentum's virtual trainings are made possible with the support of Protective Life, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, and America's Thrift. Find the full list of sponsors as well as additional resources for women leaders on our website at momentumleaders.org. Thanks for taking the time to invest in you, and remember to like, subscribe, and share our channel. We love reading thoughts and comments, so you can leave those for us here too. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn by searching